ॐ विश्वं दर्पणदृश्यमाननगरी तुल्यन्निजान्तर्गतं पश्यन्नात्मनि मायया बहिर्भूतं यथा निद्रया यस्साक्षात् कुरुते प्रबोधसमये स्वात्मानमेवाद्वयं तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये बीजस्यान्तरिवाङ्कुरो जगदिदं प्राङ्निर्विकल्पं पुनः मायाकल्पितदेशकालकलना वैचित्रचित्रीकृतं मायावीव विजृम्भयत्यपि महायोगी वयस्वेच्छया तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्सु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्तिः 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 सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम् So from 13th verse to 21st verse is one topic, and very important topic, and the topic is a samsara which is a central theme of the text. Vedanta has relevance because there is a samsara, otherwise there is no need. So here in these verses, the cause of the samsara and the remedy for samsara, both are given. So cause for samsara is what? We have seen avarana shakti, ignorance based, this mixing up of real and unreal. Avaranam on real and what is created through vikshepa is taking as a real. That is unreal. Unreal is taken as a real and the real is covered. Avarana. Vikshepa, unreal. So unreal is there to be understood as unreal. No. It is taken as real because real has been covered. Avarana. And so that is this mixing up of real and unreal, well, basically takes place at both the level, at a subjective level and objective level, because both are vikshepa. Jivas also manifest vikshepa, Jagat also manifest, and then avarana. Jiva has avarana of its own nature, Brahman Satyam. Jagat also is Brahman, but avarana. So Jagat is taken as real, Jiva is taken as real. So real unreal mixing takes place at both the levels. And so at an individual level, subjective level, between the seer and the seen, actually. I say I am a seer. Swamiji, you are seen. That's a mistake. That's a mistake. What is a mistake? I am seer. What are you saying? And you are seen. This is not a mistake. No. It is a mistake. That's how Drsya Viveka. If I am a seer, you are seen is a reality. Where is this Viveka? That book is not essential at all to study. But what is this taken as a seer is really a mixture of unreal seen and real seer. Here there is a mixture. No, it is a one entity. I am seer. No, here itself it's a mixture. Real, unreal mixture. Do you know that? No. Drsya Viveka. Drak, which is real. Drishyam, which is unreal. Mixture. Mixture means what? Drishyam is taken as drashta. Unreal is taken as real. And the real is missed. That's the thing. So anyway, at a subjective level, there is a confusion between seer and seen, mixing at a seer and seen. And objective level also between Brahman and the universe. So we have a wrong self-image and have a wrong expectation from the world. Wrong self-image plus wrong expectation from the world is equal to samsara. That's how it is. Anyway, so these together form a samsara. These two have to be sorted out. This confusion is to go. Real is to be taken as real, unreal is taken as a real is unreal is should be taken as unreal. That's it. Then samsara goes away. Anyway, so and that for that we have to do a discrimination, what is real, what is unreal, through a proper inquiry. And that inquiry is done by Vedanta, Shravanam, Mananam, etc., which leads to basically correction at the subjective and objective levels. Subjectively, well, I learned that I am emotionally independent. And objectively, I learned that these unstable names and forms, unreal names and forms, mithya names and forms cannot give lasting security, etc. Well, then the samsara goes away. And Bhagavan also uses these two adjectives to describe. For the jnani who has done this discrimination and samsara has gone, for such a jnani, he uses two adjectives that he has done correction at both the levels. What? Nitya truptaha. Nitya truptaha means he is ever satisfied with himself. Knowing himself full. If you know you are full, you are satisfied with yourself. If you know you are lacking, you have a dissatisfaction, non-self-acceptance, rejection, condemnation, running away from yourself, or grabbing the things from the world in order to make myself full. All samsara. This is samsara. Correcting self-image. Confusion is gone. Nitya truptaha. Bhagavan has used this vision. So, self-image is corrected. Nitya truptaha. And at objective level correction is done. For that also Bhagavan has used another word. Nirashrayaha. Nitya truptaha nirashraya. Nirashraya means he doesn't have an ashraya on the world. That is also correction at the objective level. He does not look upon the world as a source of joy, security or happiness. One looks upon world as a source of joy, security or peace, provided you take the world as real. That is the baseline. If you take it as real, then this is going to be there. Because you don't have a good self-image. And therefore, to correct your image, you will be dependent on the world. But this jnani is nirashraya. So, nitya truptaha nirashraya. Nitya truptaha correction at the subjective level. Nirashraya correction at the objective level. That is the thing. Anyway, and in that this sections 13 to 21, which is describing the cause of this samsara, etc. Well, we are right now is in last verse 21st, and in here we have to read this verse first. Khavaya agnir jalor vishu devatinyang naradishu abhinnas satchidanandaha vidyete rupanamani. So in the vision of this Sankhya, every jiva is basically a mixture of two things. Purusha, Atma, and basically Anatma, Prakriti. So Sankhya basically holds this Atma is different from body to body and yet all pervading. That's how I don't know how they explain this, but this is dangerous. This is very dangerous, How to explain this? All pervading Atmas are many, Sankhya says, is beyond comprehension. Anyway, but our author points out that Atma is all pervading, one and all pervading, otherwise known as Brahman, And the consciousness, well, basically in one body is the very same consciousness in another body. Existence in one body is the same existence in another body. Means existence which pervades one body, pervades another body, pervades third body, sentient, insentient, everything. The consciousness pervades one body in a sentient being. That consciousness pervades the another body. That consciousness pervades another body, like that. And well, Ananda also is same because this Satchit alone pervades everything and therefore it is complete, full. That is Ananda. So Ananda also is same in everyone. Everyone is ultimately full by nature. So there are no all these. These are three. These three are not all. All pervading attributes of Brahman. Sat, Chit, Ananda. They are not three. So there is no Sat, Chit. There is no Chit separate from the Sat. There is no Sat separate from the Ananda. There is no Ananda separate from Chit, etc., etc. What is existence is consciousness. What is consciousness is limitless. What is limitless is existence, etc. So anyway, so everything ultimately is Satchidananda, that is the Satyam. And other than that, name and form is Asat Mithya. That's it. And therefore, but if everything is basically pervaded by Satchit and that is the reality, then everything should be having a Chit. Yeah, everything has a Chit. But then if everything has a Chit pervaded by Chit, consciousness, then everything should be conscious. No. Then how can you say that Chit pervades? Only Sat may be pervading. There could be three attributes. Somewhere Sat pervades, somewhere Sat Chit pervades, somewhere Sat Chit Ananda pervades. So these three are different, Sat Chit and Ananda. No. Chit has already pervaded even a insentient thing also. But it could not manifest. It is not sentient because Chit is not manifest. And not that Chit is absent in the particular thing, insentient thing. Let's say clip, etc. So suitable medium, the mind, etc. is absent. And an example they give to explain this is, let you take a iron rod placed in basically a fire and a cup of water also you heat it on a fire. Then you will find that iron piece is pervaded by fire. Means fire manifest in iron piece. Whereas fire even pervades the water. Yeah, that's how water is hot. But fire does not manifest there. So the iron piece becomes red hot and bright, but the water does not become, even though it is hot, but does not become bright. So same way here also. So then difference will be what? Difference is in the medium. That's it. One is a water, different medium. Other is iron. So medium where it should manifest is different. Therefore, this is a simple to understand that basically mind is something which made up of sattva ultimately, sattva aspect of all elements, we consider as a finer material, very fine material, where so Paramatma manifests there, consciousness manifests there. So mind becomes conscious, alive, and therefore other things also become alive. Wherever that such a conscious mind exists, and let's say in this gross body, then the gross body also appears sentient, conscious, and therefore I am called as a sentient being. That's it. Anyway, so Satchidananda is equally present in all the insentient things of the world, also the sentient beings, and that has been told here in this verse. So insentient things are referred to by the five elements: Kham, Vayu, Agni, Jala, and Urvi. Urvi means Prithvi, earth. So Kha, Vaya, Agni, Jala, Vishu is insentient things. And then Deva, Tiryam, Naradishu, sentient beings. So Deva, Tiryam, Naradishu means the sentient beings are referred here by the three grades of beings. The superior celestials, inferior, our trees and animals and birds and insects, and the intermediate human beings. So those differences, sentient beings, insentient beings, all differences are there at the level of name and form. Anyway, and and all are pervaded by just one Satchidananda. And that is Satyam. That is Satyam means what? You say that every name and form is pervaded by Satchidananda. So Satchidananda which pervades is also real. And name and form which is pervaded also is real. You gave an example of a iron piece and fire. So, well, fire is also real, iron piece also is real. Same way here also. No, here it is not. Example has its own limitation. Here what is pervaded is mithya. What pervades is satyam. Why? Why you got this kind of a brilliant idea? Because the very existence, sat existence. Existence pervades name and form. Okay? Then if you take away existence, where is name and form? Where is name and form? If name and form exist independent of Satchidananda, then there are two things. That's it. Anywhere existence pervades, that thing is mithya. That's it. What is existence pervades any name and form. Therefore, name and form is mithya. Which lends existence is satyam. What borrows existence is mithya. That's it. Simple principle. To understand mithya, there is not a big deal. What borrows existence is mithya. Which lends existence is satyam. In that example. Here we are talking about the creation, whole creation, where Satchidananda pervades all names and forms. That is Satyam. And name and form, which borrows existence, etc. and borrows consciousness. Because of consciousness only they are seen. Actually, this is another way of saying, insentient. That is a very primary level, in fact. To talk about sentient, insentient is literally at a primary level. Frankly speaking, when insentient thing is known, pervaded by consciousness, and then you fall back to yourself. It is so simple. But anyway, so the thing, no, but Swamiji, it exists. But unless you know, how do you say it exists? Unless you know a given thing, how do you say it exists? If you say it exists, means you know it. Whatever. You know its mere existence. You may not be knowing it in detail. That is not an essential. You experience it and therefore you say it is. And therefore existence and knowability, existence and its experience goes together. And therefore knowability involves consciousness. And therefore existence and consciousness, Sat and Chit, are together only. Try to prove an existence of an object without knowability, without experience. Try. Or try to prove the knowability without its existence. Try. Nowadays, Swamiji, you are challenging a lot of things. No, I'm just saying, such they are together. It is that way. Even literally speaking, I sentient, insentient things I don't like much. But anyway, basically it is the consciousness because of which one thing is experienced and you say it is. So consciousness lends existence also. Because of consciousness a thing is known. And when a thing is known, you say it is. And therefore, ultimately, what is responsible for existence and for knowability? It's just consciousness. So simple. And therefore, anyway, so this is Satchidananda is Satyam, Nama Rupa is Mithya. So one should differentiate between Satyam and Mithya and not mixing them up, basically. So mixing up becomes evident, and when I expect a permanent support from name and form. I've told you, right? Subjective level, objective level. Confusion at a subjective level plus confusion at objective level is equal to samsara. So, subjective level confusion means your self-image is different. So your self-image is a mistake. One cause of samsara. And the at objective level, the world, also there is a, looking upon the world as a source of pleasure, source of security, source of peace, is also cause of samsara. So confusion at a subjective level, confusion at objective level. And confusion is confusion of a real, unreal. Unreal is taken as real, real is totally gone due to avarana. Real is gone, means real is covered. At a subjective level, what is seer and seen, what is seen is taken as a real actually, body, mind, sense complex. And what is really actually seer, the sakshi, is not at all considered, is as though become unreal. So this is, our self-image is like this now. Confused, mistaken self-image, cause of samsara. And objective level, also everything is pervaded by this asti bhati priyam. But no, that is covered. That's the reality, but it is covered. Name and form is taken as real. And when name and form is taken as real, this person who is not comfortable with his self-image looks outside for happiness, peace, security. So samsara is nothing but a confusion at a subjective level plus confusion at a objective level. That has been discussed in this 13th to 21st verse. Anyway, and that is how. But if I expect from outside world this peace, security, and etc., why do you call it as a wrong expectation? Well, the indication is that I get emotionally shattered. But it is not true. Emotionally shattered? Yeah. Because the thing which you take as support is really not real. It's not real, I mean. It's simply an appearance of Sachidananda. You take it as a real, name and form. And you try to lean on that. And that thing is just a mithya thing, unreal thing. And therefore the person falls down. Dhadam. An emotional shatter. Okay? Emotionally shattered. It is not the fault of the God, etc. Well, the fault lies in expecting a permanence from an imagined creation. What a hell it is. And that is how the whole society, entire human society, in spite of their education and in spite of their wealth and name and fame and properties and prosperities, in spite of all, the samsara continues. Because the world is not real. What is real is this astibhati priyam, but it is covered, avarana. And the vikshepa is just a unreal thing. These names and forms has been taken as a real. So objective level confusion is there, and that brings a samsara, means emotional shattering, etc. So what is to be done? Ultimately, avarana shakti has to be removed so that we can see the real as real, and automatically the unreal is understood as a unreal. That's it. That is called Drsya, Viveka. Satya, Mithya, Viveka. That's it. Nothing else. Anyway, verse 22. Upekshya nama rupe dve Satchidananda tatparah Samadhim sarvada kuryat Hridayeva thava bahihi. So with the previous verse, the author has completed the important central topic of the text, the cause of samsara and remedy for the samsara. The cause of samsara is satyamithya avivekah, and the remedy is satyamithya vivekah. That is the thing. Anyway, and from verse 22 to 31 now, 13 to 21, the top, this is was the topic. 20 to 31, author goes to next topic, that Vedanta students generally say that before that, what is the topic? Before that, to discuss that, I would first talk about the significance of that topic. So Vedanta students generally, say that they have studied and understood Vedanta very well. And then slowly the student opens up his heart and says, well, he knows that he should drop the attachment to this mithya thing and hold on to Satyam. But the complaint is that the intellect understands the problem and the solution well, but the mind basically is incapable of implementing the solution. So there is an eternal gap between what the rational mind knows and what the emotional mind is. A big gap between a heart and brain. That's how they say. Big gap between heart and brain. Anyway, so Swamiji, I have a good knowledge of this. They call intellectual knowledge. I have a knowledge of Vedanta very well, but I don't have an experience of Brahman. They say like this. I have a knowledge of Brahman, but I don't have experience of Brahman. That's better. That is exactly the question they ask. I don't have a knowledge of Brahman, but I don't have an experience of Brahman. Yeah. So, by lack of experience actually is usually meant for the continuation of emotional problems. That's what they mean. They won't say I have emotional problems. If you say I have emotional problems, then I will say, well, you are studying so much. How can you have emotional problems? So they don't say that way. They say, I know Brahman, but I don't have experience of Brahman. Very polishedly. Means you are responsible. You teacher are responsible for that. You are giving us knowledge, but never tell how to experience Brahman. That's what the thing is. Literally speaking, because we have understood, if a knowledge, Brahma Jnanam is there, samsara does not exist. And they experience samsara, emotional problems. And therefore, if emotional problems continues, meant therefore I am not experiencing Brahman. If I am experiencing Brahman, the problem should not remain. That's what they mean. Anyway, so some people basically attribute to the non-experience of Brahman, these emotional problems, etc. are there, and say that there is only knowledge, but there is no experience of Brahman. However, the teaching is that there is no such thing as experience of Brahman. There is nothing called experience of Brahman, because Brahman is not an object. Simple things are there. Brahman is not an object, and therefore there is no experience of Brahman. Experience of Brahman is impossible because it is not an object. Any object you can experience in the world, today, tomorrow, next life. But if it is not an object, how will you experience it? Anyway, so the teaching basically is that there is no such thing as experience, but one takes basically, one takes it like that. And for that they give an example also that the light in the case of suppose right now, let us say, I gave this example even in the morning, like you experience me right now. You experience me, then you have an experience of my body as well as you experience of a light. There is no lack of a light experience when you are experiencing my body. Please understand this. But basically one takes the light for granted. You don't have a focus. You have a focus on my expressions, non-verbal expressions, my body. You don't have a focus on the light, because of which you are seeing non-verbal expressions and the body. Only question of focusing. You are experiencing, but you don't focus, and therefore you say you don't experience. Simple. This, so simple it is. So we have to, problem is now with the knowledge also. In case of a light, well, light is experienced, but you don't have a focus. So here also problem is not a lack of a Brahman experience, Brahman realization, etc., samadhi or some mystic experience. The problem is that the knowledge gained has not been internalized. You have not focused. Where teaching is telling you to focus, you are not focusing that. Then on what we are focusing? Ahankara. Whole day focus is on ahankara. Not focus on the thing because of which ahankara exists and shines. Never. And therefore, it is so basically you have to focus on Brahman, which is already we are experiencing. You have to focus on that. That is called the process of internalization. I am coming to the topic, okay? That is for that purpose only we are discussing this. Anyway, and so process of internalization is important. They give an example of a coffee with the sugar. If a coffee is there with the sugar and still you don't have a sweet taste of the coffee, because internalization is not done. Yeah, you have to simply stir it. Yes, if you stir, that sugar will pervades, gets internalized in the coffee. It's a fantastic example, really. Same way, our sugar, this Brahma Jnanam is here, but it is not internalized in the whole body. Point is basically focusing is to be done. You focus, keep on focusing on mithya thing. When person focuses on mithya thing, the result is one. Only one. Samsara. There is no other result. Never welfare of a person. Never. Any amount of ahankara, you make it polished, big, whatever you do. Since it is mithya, not a reality, will not give you satisfaction. It's an imagination. It's an imagined thing. Ahankara is an imagined thing. It's a mithya thing. Jivatvam is a mithya thing. There is nothing called jiva. It's purely born of ignorance, purely born of avarana. Brahman with the avarana becomes jiva and vikshepa. Vikshepa means you take not just avarana. Avarana means Swamiji covered, but you take yourself jiva. So it's not simply Brahman is covered. Yeah, okay, vikshepa. In place you take something else. Okay, jiva. So the result, because it's an imagined thing. So focus should be done because of which very jiva shines. It's already there. Consciousness is very much there, which is self-evident. What is self-evident, self-illumined, cannot be, there is no question of not experiencing. If you don't experience right now and later you experience, means that thing cannot be self-illumined thing. You have not focused on the self-illumined thing. That's it. Self-illumining thing tells that self shines. It is self-shining. If it is self-shining and still you say it is, I am not experiencing, means you have not focused on that. That's it. There is a special process of focusing that is going to be there between this verse 22 to verse 31. And we call it as a nididhyasana. Here it is the word samadhi they have used. Bhagavan also has used it in 6th chapter. So this internalization basically of the knowledge through alert living is very important. Just as after adding sugar with alertness, you stir it in order to get a sweet taste of a coffee. Same way here, alert living, that is called focusing, is important. And that is called Nididhyasana. Nididhyasana is nothing but focusing. In a waking state, when the ahankara is there, but your attention is on the self-shining consciousness, Sakshi, the witness consciousness, because of which the ahankara shines. Ahankara exists. You all the time pay attention to that. Of course, as per the vyavahara you do through ahankara, that is fine. But your attention is there. That's a focus. And in its presence, definitely this ahankara becomes insignificant. When ahankara becomes insignificant, samsara, all emotional problems become insignificant. All emotional problems are centered on ahankara. All. Any emotional problem. So when you focus on this consciousness, Sakshi of ahankara means Sakshi, then definitely ahankara automatically becomes insignificant. When it becomes insignificant, definitely the problems of samsara also become insignificant. You shade off. Okay. How to do this focusing, internalization, etc.? Well, in several ways it can be done. We have discussed also very well. First, we have discussed, you must be knowing this, we call it as a Brahmabhyasa. Brahmabhyasa means Abhyasa is exercise, and Brahma, exercise of Brahman. Basically, teaching. Again and again, go through the teaching. That's Abhyasa. So basically, repeated Shravanam is one method. And in Shravanam, what should I do? I do Shravanam. Afterwards only I am complaining you that, well, I am not experiencing Brahman. And now you are again telling me to go for Shravanam. No. When you do this Shravanam, you do this. What? Whenever teacher uses word Atma, Brahman, etc., well, you say I. That's it. So anyway, this is Shravanam. Then sharing, teaching, writing, etc. also methods. In all this method, the important thing is to replace Atma or Brahman as I. If you do even if I am telling you, if you do a Shravanam only 1 hour a day, suppose, just 1 hour, with this, that very alertly, whenever the word Atma, Brahman comes, you alertly put as I. Focus as I. It is Nididhyasana. That's it. Only 1 hour. In the whole day. That's it. Rest of the time you can eat bread and coffee and just move around. That's it. Some of you are joking. No, I'm not joking. I'm telling you. It will change your thought patterns. It will change your... How can it... 1 hour in a day? What about 23 hours? That 1 hour in a day, focusing, will compel your mind in other waking hours to draw your attention to that I, consciousness. Believe my words. But people don't initiate the very 1 hour or a 15 minutes or 20 minutes sitting and focusing on the self. Never. They keep listening. And when word Atma is there, they keep it as Atma. When word Brahman appears, they keep it as Brahman. Word Sat appears as a Sat. Sat, as though Sat has no connection to I. As though Chit has no connection to I. Really? Satchidananda is Satchidananda. Astibhati Prem is Astibhati Prem. Hey, that is I. Oh, Swamiji, but I can't understand. Then you try to understand it. But that is I. And if you have that connection, then you don't need other Nididhyasana. That's called Brahmabhyasa. This is Brahmabhyasa. But here, now, what we are going to see is another type of Nididhyasana. Samadhyabhyasa. Samadhyabhyasa means sitting in one posture and all that. sitting meditation in a certain posture, etc. There are several steps, of course, in that position of the body and position of your senses and even the pranas and everything, status of a prana, etc. Prana pano samau krutva nasabhyantaracharino. Bhagavan also said everything about that. Anyway, so there you take care of these preliminary steps and you sit in a traditional form of a meditation. That is being taught here. And we will be seeing in detail how it leads you to Brahman. We will see. So in Nidhyasanam, well, in the form of a Samadhi Abhyasa is discussed here. And here means you exclusively give some time for dwelling on the teaching. Focusing on self. Dwelling on teaching means focusing on self. Other Brahmabhyasa means you can walk on the beach and dwell on the teaching or focus on the self. Who is walking? You can ask. You can initiate this process. Who is walking? A walker is walking. Who is this walker? Ask. That will lead ultimately to consciousness. We'll see. Don't worry. So, Samadhi Abhyasa is exclusively giving some time for dwelling on the teaching. And I deliberately withdraw from all transactions, deliberately distance from all ahankara roles, and I invoke I focus on myself. That is consciousness, sakshi. When you focus on self here, you keep this thing in mind, sakshi. The witness consciousness, the witness of all the thoughts, because of which the thoughts shine, thoughts exist, because of which the thoughts are experienced. Anyway, and so this is Samadhi Abhyasa is talked about here in these few verses, and there are six-fold Samadhis, six types of Samadhi Abhyasa from verse 20 to 31. If anybody has a question that, well, basically whether it is required or not, it all depends on you. If you are able to focus while walking, talking, moving around, if you are able to focus that basically I am consciousness and I am not a talker, etc., even though talking takes place and I am a talker, as a talker I am talking, but that's not reality of me. I am the very consciousness and this talker is very non-separate from me, etc. If you are aware of all these things, then your focus is not on ahankara. Your focus is on self. If you are able to do that, you may not require this Samadhi Abhyasa. But I am sure, for most of the people, both are required. Frankly speaking, there is no option. There is no option. Why there is no option? Why there is no option? We want to have option. We will sit for 1 hour and then afterwards we will not think of it. This Dehadhyasa is so strong, so strong. It's so entrenched habit that you will definitely require a very intense meditation. Means either Brahmabhyasa or Samadhi Abhyasa, you require it. That will change because you are developing a new habit now of owning up the self. And thereby you are weakening the old habit of taking body as a self. To remove that entrenched habit of taking body as a self, you have to develop a very strong habit of taking self as a self, consciousness as a self, sakshi as a self. And for that, well, you need during waking hour basically this type of nididhyasana. But Swamiji, I can't do this kind of a thing. What do you think? You may be sitting in one room and telling all this kind of thing. We can't do that. That is why nididhyasana, when question of nididhyasana comes for nishtha, generally a sannyasi's life is required. You are talking like as if you are authority. I am not authority. Please, you just see the bhashyam of chapter 6. Just see. Sannyasa. Bhashyakara, for a Bhashyakara, Nididhyasanam means, or a life of a nishtha means sannyasa. Why? I have already talked in a Gujarati class in Panchadashi. Suppose if you want to remain active, you can remain active. But then, basically you have to invoke all the time ahankara. There is no way out. Who is active? Brahman is active or doer is active? A doer, enjoyer. So more and more you be active, more and more the same mithya ahankara you have to invoke, and initially you take it as a real also, and this will not work. In Nididhyasanam, ahankara is mithya. And in this activity and extroverted activity, this ahankara is active all the time. Taking it as a real, you do all activity. So, I think we talked even in Panchadashi also. And therefore, it is very essential that the person should lead a life of a contemplation. A life of contemplation is called sannyasa, not this sannyasa ashrama. Don't think I am talking about ashrama. I am talking about this, a life of contemplation, which will change the habit. And once you have a nishtha, then you can, as per your prarabdha vasana, you can have a activity, life of activity or anything. That is very essential. But anyway, so this is sixfold samadhis have been discussed here. And the author basically described this six samadhi in a chart form. We don't find this kind of a discussion anywhere else. It's a very unique approach. It is not found in other Vedantic text. So what is the chart now? How do you arrive at the sixfold samadhi? Well, first samadhi is divided into two. Antaraha, Bahyaha. Internal, external. Okay? Internal meditations, external meditation. Internal meditation, closed eye meditation. External meditation, open eye meditation. Okay? That way. And then this internal samadhi is again divided. Now again we are bifurcating. Internal samadhi is again divided into two. Savikalpaka and Nirvikalpaka. Or Savikalpa, Nirvikalpa. Then internal Savikalpa is again divided into two. Object associated and word associated. Same way now come to the external samadhi. External samadhi is divided into Savikalpa, Nirvikalpa. Then external Savikalpa is again divided into two. Object associated and word associated. So 6 samadhis are like this. And I will give the name of every samadhi, 6 samadhis. First is what? Antara, right? Internal. Antara, Drsya, Anuvidda, Savikalpa, Samadhi. Internal, object associated, Savikalpa, Samadhi. First. Then Antara, Shabda, Anuvidda, Savikalpa, Samadhi. Internal, word associated, Savikalpa, Samadhi. Then third, Antara, Nirvikalpa, Samadhi. Internal, Nirvikalpa, Samadhi. So 3 Antara over. Now, fourth, Bahya, Drsya, Anuvidda, Savikalpa, Samadhi. External, object associated, Savikalpa, Samadhi. Then Bahya, Shabda, Anuvidda, Savikalpa, Samadhi. External, word associated, Savikalpa, Samadhi. And sixth is Bahya, Nirvikalpa, Samadhi. External, Nirvikalpa, Samadhi. Savikalpa has a division, that you should remember. Savikalpa has a division, object associated, word associated. Nirvikalpa cannot have a division, being Nirvikalpa. Savikalpa has some division. So anyway, Nididhyasanam is an exercise in which basically mind is focused on this, Satchidananda, the limitless existence, consciousness as I am. as the meditator. The subject is basically this. And for that, well, you have to filter out basically names and forms. That is mixed up as we have discussed. Satya Mithya, Viveka alone is a confusion. So you just names and forms is Mithya, etc. You know. And this Satchidananda, but Swamiji, rather than doing this job, removing name and form, filtering out and all this, let me understood Satchidananda Sakshi in a pure form. Or let me experience in a pure form. Satchidananda is never available without name and form. Name and form only, through that only it manifests. What can we do? How will you know Satchidananda is in a pure form? He is going to come even in 10th chapter of Panchadashi, don't worry. Some people say we want to experience this Sakshi in a pure form. We want to experience Sakshi in a pure form. Never possible. Some state may be there, Swamiji. No. Waking, of course, name and form. Along with that Astibhati Prem, means Satchidananda. Dream also. Name and form plus Satchidananda. Deep sleep also. Name and form, Satchidananda. But in deep sleep, no name and form. What are you talking? No, it is there. Karana Sharira is there or not? Pure. Are you experiencing pure Sakshi in a deep sleep state? In a deep sleep state, are you aware that I am pure Sakshi? No. Means something else is there or not? Yeah. Karana Sharira, ignorance, avidya is very much there. People think that that we get up and we analyze that state and we say, well, that nothing was there and these and that. But pure Sakshi without name and form is not available. Samadhi, not available. No, Swamiji, you said Samadhi, Ahankara. I said Ahankara is minimized. It is very much there, but minimized. Deliberately you have removed all the thoughts. So Samadhi there, or a deep sleep, or waking, everywhere, names and forms will be always there. It's always mixed up with either manifest names and forms or unmanifest names and forms. And therefore, that is how they have told in verse 20. Why should they tell about these 5 things, 5 components? That well, Asti Bhati Priyam is there, which is Brahman, and name and form is there, which is Mithya. Why should they talk? If Asti Bhati Priyam Satchidananda is available in a pure form, why should they talk about 5 components? They say, no, this is Satyam, this is Brahman, this is Mithya. May you understand that? Means all the time the Satchidananda is available with this. It was described in the 28th verse, because it's available in mixture. Anyway, so what we should do is, even though this changing name and form is falling in purview of our knowledge, it is not focused on, but the changeless aspect is focused on for absorption. And that practice is repeated often, which we call Samadhi. So this meditation, Samadhi, etc., is done in 2 ways. One is meditating on internal object, such as a thought, etc. And then every thought has basically 5 components. Every thought is considered, every thought is name and form, and of course its existence and it is experience, and therefore Chit also is there, Ananda also is there, is basically on that Satchidananda is focused, and name and form, the thought part, is ignored. But you take help of I will explain you all these 6 samadhis are there in this discussion. So anyway, this is the absorption in the changeless aspect of the thought. In a Savikalpa Samadhi, definitely you first take help of a thought, and then from thought you focus on the Satchidananda. So this is basically, when you close the eyes and do this, well, it is a close eye meditation, Antar Samadhi. The other is meditating on external object, focusing on the changeless aspect there also, open eye meditation. Close eye meditation, in which Savikalpa Samadhi means thought is there. From thought you focus on to the existence and shining of the thought, etc. All is due to Sakshi, and therefore then you focus on Sakshi. In external objects, well, you take any object and that name and form is changing, and the Asthibhati Priyam is Brahman, that is a reality, etc. So that's open-eye meditation. Anyway, we'll discuss this in the next class. So that has been very nicely said from verse number 23 to 31. All the six have been explained clearly, and we will see that. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.